The combination between Bandiaki and Johnny Sexton was magnifique, it was excellent. So in the post-match interview, Johnny Sexton, he said, and I quote, "It means a lot now, but it won't mean anything when the World Cup starts. We have to keep improving." Now many fans are asking the question, have the Irish peaked once again a year out from the Rugby World Cup like they did in 2018 when they were the best team in the world, when they were number one? And we all know that Ireland flopped out in the quarterfinals against New Zealand. But like Johnny Sexton says, they will need to keep improving. So in this review, I would like to start off by giving my congratulations to all the Irish fans and supporters. What your team did today was seismic. It's only the third time that New Zealand lost a 3-match series in New Zealand. The first being against the Springboks, the second against the Wallabies, and now the third against the Irish. So the Irish fans can feel very proud about their team. It was a great performance. So what I noticed about what Ireland achieved in this game was, number one, the ability to convert pressure into points whenever they were in New Zealand's 22. In Ireland, they managed to give New Zealand a smack in the face early in the game by tries from Jos van der Flier, Hugo Keenan and Robbie Henshaw when they went up 22-3 in the first half. And that was a smack in New Zealand's face. Then number three, the second point, I always say that if you want to win in New Zealand, you need to score at least 30 points against New Zealand. The stats reveal that a team that scores 30 points against New Zealand, the probability of winning the All Blacks is 90%. And Ireland, they managed to do that. They scored their 30 points and they kept that stat in place. What I also noticed in this game was the combination between Johnny Sexton and Bandiaki. Now, I know that Robbie Henshaw got injured last week, and this gave an opportunity for Bandiaki to reveal and to showcase his skills to the country that rejected him and that didn't have a place for him. But Bandiaki came on, and I think the combination between Bandiaki and Johnny Sexton was magnifique, it was excellent. The running lines, the physicality of Bandiaki, the sleight of hand from Johnny Sexton, it was just beautiful to watch. It was brilliant. But I think the most potent weapon that the Irish had in the arsenal tonight was the Irish driving maul. It set up this win for the Irish. I know there was an instance where Johnny Sexton was offered a penalty in front of the poles, but he chose to go for the corner and they drove the ball, and it was Jos van der Flier's try actually. It was the driving maul. But yeah, I think it was a potent weapon and New Zealand had no answer. And on the 65th minute, the try from Rob Herring, that was the nail in the New Zealand coffin. So Ireland, they can go into next year's Six Nations with huge confidence. But obviously before that, they've got the autumn series. And Ireland deserve to be the number one team in the world according to the rankings. Then I would like to look at some stats in this game. So Ireland managed to score 4 tries against New Zealand, and New Zealand managed only to score 3 tries. What happened in this game, New Zealand, they actually also made more running meters, with 540 running meters and Ireland 347 running meters. New Zealand obviously had the bulk of the possession and territory. Then what stood out for me as well was Ireland's stability in the set plays concerning the scrums and the lineouts, where Ireland they held and they won all the scrums, while New Zealand lost 1 scrum, and Ireland they only lost 1 lineout, while New Zealand lost 4 lineouts. And what's remarkable about this game is both teams' ability to keep the discipline. When New Zealand they only conceded 8 penalties in the whole of the game, and Ireland conceded 9 penalties. And normally we would say that the benchmark is 10 penalties a game. A team that keeps the penalty count under 10, they have done very well, and both teams have done very well. So I would like to cover New Zealand now and speak about New Zealand. So like I said previously, Ireland's ability to use the driving maul was very effective, and what was the Achilles heel for New Zealand was the inability to counter the driving maul from Ireland. And normally New Zealand, they were very good in countering driving mauls, because that's something that they faced a lot in Super Rugby back in the day, or when Super Rugby existed with the South African teams in it, because the South African teams, they love to use driving mauls, but for some reason, I think in this Ireland series, New Zealand, they struggled to actually negate the driving maul, which may pose some problems for them going forward, especially in the Rugby Championship if they don't sort this out. New Zealand's other problem was the inability to have a good start in the second and the third test, but I think the inability was more due to the fact that the Irish's potency when they are in the New Zealand 22 area, when they are on attack in the New Zealand half, and that caused New Zealand to have poor starts. Maybe it was lapses in defense, but I would contribute it to Ireland's ability in the attack. So New Zealand, they need to look at the starts in the games going forward. But what stood out for me also in this game that's positive for New Zealand was the character that was shown by Ari Sevilla. To me, I actually agree with Peter O'Mahony when he said that Sam Cane is a fake Richie McCaw. I thought that was very funny when Peter O'Mahony said that last week to Sam Cane, that Sam Cane, he was like nowhere in this game. And I would prefer that Ari Sevilla be the All Black captain. I don't know what I see in Sam Cane. I think they want to mold him in some sort of Richie McCaw image, but it's not. To me, Ari Sevilla, he tried to wrestle this game back at the scruff of the neck for the All Blacks. And the way Ari Sevilla manned up, where he scored his try, the impact he had on the game was positive. And I thought that New Zealand, they were coming strong. They were coming back very strongly with the tries from Ari Sevilla and Akira Ioane. And obviously with Will Jordan's try as well. What also stood out for me was the yellow card of Andrew Porter, and the tries from Sevilla, from Akira Ioane, and from Will Jordan, and also the yellow card from Porter. At that moment in time, you could feel that New Zealand, they were gaining momentum, and that they were gonna come in and maybe win this game and steal this game from Ireland. But as we saw, it didn't happen, right? But I want to ask you guys a question. The yellow card from Andrew Porter, do you guys think that was a yellow card or a red card? Initially, when I saw the contact from Porter onto Rotelik's head, the head and head collision, my initial thought was a red card, because it was the same scenario that happened last week when the New Zealand player got red carded. But the referee, he had his interpretation, Wayne Barnes, but that should have been a red. And that incident happened like in the beginning of the second half. So if Porter had to get a red card and was sent off, it might have been a change in the game. But it didn't happen, and it is what it is. And I think this will be a controversial talking point for the rest of this week. Was that a yellow card or was it supposed to be a red card? So in my closing moments, I just want to say that Ireland, they need to wrap up Johnny Sexton in bubble wrap, went cotton wool, because they're gonna need Johnny Sexton for next year. I would rather say that Ireland, they should do what Leinster did in the URC. They should field an Ireland B team in the Six Nations next year, just to keep the frontline players fresh and fit, because behind this current players that started this game in the third and final test against New Zealand, there's nothing going on behind the front line, behind the starting players for Ireland. So if Ireland should have a couple of injuries with these players, then they'll be in big trouble. But yeah, I think they should wrap Johnny Sexton in cotton wool, and Ireland, they should field a B team in the upcoming Six Nations next year. So I just want to say also in closing that this should be a huge warning to the Springboks supporters out there. With Ireland winning this game and the series against New Zealand, Springbok supporters shouldn't get this false impression that this All Black team is weak. There's no such thing as a weak All Blacks team. And New Zealand, their next two games will be against the Springboks in South Africa. And as a South African and a Springbok supporter, I can already see that the media number one in South Africa, they're going to look down on New Zealand, and the supporters will also have the confidence that the Springboks is going to smack New Zealand in the face. But I want to warn Springbok supporters, and I want to warn the media and everybody that we cannot take New Zealand lightly. The fact that they've lost this 3-match series against Ireland at home, we cannot take this All Black team lightly. Even with the fact that they're going to play on the high veld, we cannot do that. I mean, we cannot be complacent against the New Zealand team. So one of the reasons, in my view, why the Springboks are currently struggling against Wales is because before this Welsh Test series, the Wales teams in the URC, they did very poorly, and we had the South African teams doing very well, and the conclusion that arose was that Wales will struggle against the Springboks when they play against the Springboks in South Africa. And that brought in some complacency. And we even saw that the South African management, they already, before the series, they already planned to feature a B team in the second test, because the assumption was that they would win the first test easily, and they will bring in the B team in the second test. And whatever happens, if they win or lose, they will field the first team again in the third test. So that is something that's a norm here in South Africa. Sometimes we tend to take teams lightly, and I can already see that New Zealand will be taken lightly, and the conference will be overwhelming. But I just want to warn everybody that we still need to keep New Zealand in high regard when they come here. So guys, what is your feelings about this game? Was the Ireland win very good for World Rugby, or are you guys sad for New Zealand for losing? I would like to hear from you. And everybody, if you're on Twitter, give me a follow on Twitter, Peter Rugby Eater. You can get me there. I'm active on Twitter. You can follow me, and we can have a conversation. So guys, thank you for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'll catch you guys on my next video.